Hello and welcome to Full Tech Ahead. I'm your host, Amanda Rosani, and I'm excited to be here today with Sam Pierson. He is the CTO at Qlik. How are you doing today?
Good. Thanks for having me, Amanda. Great to see you.
Happy to have you on the show. First, share about yourself, maybe give a little bit about your background and what do you do over at Qlik?
Yeah. I'm Sam Pierson, the Chief Technology Officer here at Qlik. Um, I joined Qlik through the talent acquisition a couple of years ago, where I was the Chief Technology Officer there, and I've spent the last couple of years just building out the data side of our products, and then this summer I stepped into the broader CTO role, where I oversee our cloud platform and our technology strategy, among a bunch of other interesting things. But no, I've spent my whole career has been in technology. It's been in data, it's been in infrastructure, everything from healthcare to education and ed tech, the supply chain analytics and data integration, and then just general data management as well.
Fantastic. Well, our topic of today is all about technology implementation and that return on investment, starting off with agentic AI, which we're hearing so much about AI agents these days. And the shift recently towards more task specific agents. Can you share your thoughts on this and why you think that it's shifted that direction?
Yeah, I mean, if you go back to sort of the advent of ChatGPT, right? Like I think that was sort of the starting gun for a lot of people, where all of a sudden it was like, okay, well, I can talk to this thing. It's like it's reasonably intelligent, it's reasonably fast, and it just started this whole flood of everybody getting into it. You saw all of these foundational models getting built out, and you saw every major player really building out these foundational models. And I think the foundational models were always the required sort of first step here. But if you think about if you use software as an analogy here, the need now for us to get into more discrete units of work and actually have those things like executing, you can almost draw a parallel to like the little scripts and the little cron jobs that power everything around us, like way deep, deep behind the scenes. And I think, like, again, sort of on a consumer basis, people were able to use things, right? It's disrupting search, like we see things like that. But actually, to make it productive, you really have to now sort of very very explicitly craft like a responsibility for this agent. And I think what people are finding is that a lot of times it's much easier to do that and to measure the efficacy of that work if it's very small, small and narrow, tightly bound work.
What advice do you have for business leaders when it comes to finding the right technology solutions and the beginning of that tech implementation phase?
Yeah, I mean, like, and we've done some research on this, and the far and away the biggest impediment to success with AI initiatives inside of the enterprises and the users that we talk to is it is all about the data. So again, sort of going back to these foundational these base model LLMs. It's great. It can tell you all sorts of things. It can go out on the web and it can find things for you, everything from sports to weather to whatever, right? But it's not going to have your own proprietary data. And I think when you are trying to get more efficient and get more productive as a company, like the magic is really going to come when you can bring in your own proprietary data safely and get these agents to interact with that. And so I would just say, looking at the data is something that is always the first step here. And then I think like every other trend that has been around the entire data driven movement, going back to basically the beginning of time. Your data has to be in the right shape for it. And so just I think thinking really critically about how you're getting your data structured, where those sources are coming from, is like probably the most important thing for you to consider as you're getting these things off the ground.
Absolutely. I hear that a lot from almost everyone. It all is rooted in the data.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think too, like, I think there's another interesting twist to this, which is you go back to the Hadoop boom, you go back to TensorFlow. It's like these things were actually not all that trivial to set up. And and even with Hadoop, you could set up a cluster and you could dump your data in it. But a lot of those data lakes became the proverbial data swamps, right? And they became unusable, and you saw a lot of abandonment. I think the difference this time around is that all of these AI systems really do have lower barriers to adoption because you can just call an API, right? You can pick your model, you can pick your cloud vendor, and they're gonna hook you up with it. But then, like, okay, now how do we get our data? It's the perennial question.
Yeah, and also that interoperability between different platforms and different programs, because most companies aren't just sticking with one solution. They have multiple
Yeah,
solutions.
yeah. Yeah, so I think this is where Qlik, I think Qlik has. I'll just take a few minutes to talk about Qlik. I mean, there's a very interesting sort of lineage to Qlik. So Qlik's been around for a long time. Qlik is primarily known for their work in the business intelligence and analytics space. So it's a highly differentiated analytical engine that like nobody can touch in terms of speed and latency. A lot of this stuff is done in memory. A few years ago, they then Qlik had moved into more of the data space, right? And so and not necessarily the storage, but the means of moving that data. And so you have things like Replicate, which is a change data capture solution, and then, as I said before, right, then 2.5, 3 years ago, Qlik bought Talend, which brought in a whole other set of products around moving data, having data quality. And so I think putting all of those things together, the way that we've thought about it at Qlik is that we are positioned as really that independent vendor that can help customers sort of pick and choose, right? So if you think about the data fabric as an analogy, maybe not as a pattern, but you have all your sources that we can connect to, we can move that data in any means that you want to move it. And then when you pick your partner, and that could be a Snowflake, Databricks, it could be AWS, it could be Microsoft, it could be Google. It allows you to really build and implement that strategy while still giving you some optionality. And I think that's one of the magic things that we do.
Awesome. So another struggle companies have is really monitoring and seeing the value after they've implemented these technology solutions. So what advice do you have as far as achieving that return on investment and how to monitor if they have?
Yeah, I mean, I think the big thing with these is you always have to start with the metrics, right? Like what's the metric that you are trying to influence when anytime you have any sort of a project, right? And that's not even just limited to AI. It's really, it could be as simple as, hey, are we giving our users the best experience when it comes to SLA around our data, right? Like, is it up to date as frequently as it needs to be? Are we overserving users, right? And then incurring costs. And so the way that we think about it, right, is like sort of metric goal and then measuring your strategy when it comes to getting from point A to point B. And so, yeah, and a lot of our customers too, who have chosen to work with different vendors, they'll find, right, like, hey, it's great to have this relationship with this one vendor, but it's like our bills keep going up and we're not really sure how. This is also where Qlik can help, or whoever, but thinking about the sort of the financial operations or the FinOps piece of it as well. And so, again, I would just go back to, the measurement, the goal, and then like, are we really hitting the targets that we've set for our users inside the business?
Absolutely. So I know a lot of companies still, of course, rely on software as a service. But I'm hearing a lot more this term being thrown around, vibe coded
Yeah.
applications. Can you share a little bit about what does this mean for our audience when people are talking about this, and what is the benefit?
Yeah. Well, I mean, so first, I think it's like it's probably on one hand it's overblown, and then on the other hand it's not recognized enough. So vibe coding is really like, okay, you've got this idea, and you can open up your AI assisted development tool, and you can get it to churn out a product more or less, right? There's little steps along the way there. Um, but I think the train of thought around this though is like, historically, software can be pretty expensive to build. And so I think the theory here is like, all of a sudden we are going to have just a tremendous amount of competition from people who are building these side projects that become extremely disruptive, and maybe that offer solutions at a better price point than the established businesses that maybe run on at 80, 85, 90% margin, then they can really absorb. And I think like there's a couple things on it. So first, I think it is a real thing. You have folks like Chamath Palihapitiya. He's got a venture called 8090, right? And it's about building software that does 80% of the job at a 90% reduction in cost. And I do think that solutions that teams that are very focused on are going to come out and be disruptive. But I think on the flip side, this stuff is not really going to be disruptive in the classic Clay Christensen sense, because the incumbents are going to be able to respond. And I think and Qlik is no exception, right? Like we have been in the machine learning and the data science space for years. We've got great products in that area. So it's like we're jumping in, but it's like you can't go a day without some huge vendor making some big announcement, sort of proclaiming their position in this new AI world. And so I think most folks are going to be in a position where they can respond. And so I think it's probably a little bit of column A and a little bit of column B.
Mhm. With as fast as all these technologies are evolving, where is there a gap within companies? Where is there a skill set that's missing and a demand? Could you share a little bit about that and what up and coming people getting into technology careers maybe they should look into?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think look, there has never been. I mean, I don't know. In recent memory, there's never been a better time to be a technologist. I think, and despite maybe what is said about like the hiring and the unemployment rate for new engineers, I think like there's just so much that you can do on your own. You can go out and you can build your ideas faster than ever. You can do it with less support than ever. And so I would just say like the experimentation and the piloting of projects, both for maybe individuals who are just trying to get up to speed, but also then like the piloting of these projects inside of companies, like those are really, I think, the things to start with. Because again, I think if you try to take on too much, or you haven't really thought things through, you're not deliberate about your data strategy, then like that's when you see people sort of run into the barriers that they can't overcome.
All right. Well, if you could leave one key takeaway with our audience today, what would that be?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think AI is going to reshape everything. And there's no question in my mind about that. But I think the one thing that hasn't changed is that your data is the foundation of success for those initiatives. So I think if to the extent that you have a data strategy, you can extend it to support AI really effectively. And we've done that at Qlik, and we see our users do that as well. And I would say if you don't have a data strategy, start there instead of just going all in on AI without a plan. And I think in either case, we at Qlik would love to talk to you about how we can help.
All right. Wonderful. Thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Yeah, you got it, Amanda. Thanks.
And thank you to our listeners. Let us know what was the most interesting to you and share your comments. And see you in the next podcast.